Hello and welcome back to another PAP Reports. Today is Wednesday the 15th of January 2020 and today I'm happy to say there is little for me to report by way of police abusing powers. However, as you would expect, there are still some reports that need to be made. We're going to start today with something that on the face of it looks like a win for the public, and that is the reports of a new police complaint system coming into force. Now, when we hear that, most people will immediately think one of two things. Firstly, why? That will be the thoughts from those people who still have their eyes closed to the amount of complaints and the necessity to complain over the callous and disrespectful behaviour we see from many police staff. Secondly, the oh good, about time thoughts from many of the people who may have made complaints in the past and understand how unimpartial and difficult it is to get a resolution. But there is a third thought, which was in fact my first thought, as I'm sure it would be for many of the people who know just how prolific corruption and bad practice is throughout the police force. And that is, what's the point? In a report in the Northampton Chronicle, it states that new rules introduced by the Police and Crime Act 2017 mean that a complaint can now be made against the police force rather than a named officer. From February the 1st, the Office of the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner will be more involved with complaints and has set up a new team to deal with the issues. Complaints will still go through the same initial channels and the existing Police Standards Department will still investigate matters involving police officer conduct. Now, my initial response to that was, so what's changed exactly? It's still a matter of police investigating police. Now, the article goes on to say that any appeals and reviews will now go through the OPCC. The office will also record all complaints, be responsible for low-level resolution, and if an appeal is upheld, the Crime Commissioner can make recommendations to the force, including apologies and compensation payments. Now, for me, reading this, I wonder how this works. It says that complaints will still go through the same initial channels and the existing Police Standards Department will still investigate matters involving police officer conduct. But then says the OPCC will be responsible for low-level resolution. So what is the need for the PSD? Now, I don't claim to know everything, and sometimes I simply don't understand what a claim like this means. So if you think you understand this, please, let me know in the comments. On the 6th of January, Mr. Mould, Northamptonshire's Crime Commissioner, said he welcomed the new method as a way to strengthen his role of holding the Chief Constable to account, and that we probably expect a 5-fold increase in complaints. The previous definition was the complaint had to be against a particular officer around a piece of conduct. The definition has changed such to the point it is any form of dissatisfaction with Northants Police that can be from the time it took to answer the phone to the words used in communication. Now, in a time where police forces across the country are complaining of lack of funds, where is the funding coming from that will pay for the team being employed to deal with complaints coming into the OPCC? Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for police being held accountable and anyone else who does something wrong. But I simply don't see this making much of a difference. Most complaints are not upheld now, so, what's going to change? Probably nothing. There's nothing in the report about the changes that would imply that police will be dealt with any more differently than they are now. It simply means that there will be more complaints to refuse action over. Or on the other hand, maybe this is a ploy to bring in more complaints, especially the low-level complaints. For example, as quoted a moment ago, that can be from the time it took to answer your phone or the words used in the communication. Now imagine this. Let's say there are 10 complaints per week over officer conduct. One of those complaints gets upheld, the other's rejected. That's a resolution rate of just 10%, and we're being generous here. Now imagine that we have 50 complaints per week. 10 of those are still for officer conduct. The other 40 are for not answering the phone in an appropriate time frame. Now let's say those phone call issues are all resolved and upheld, and the resolution being a simple apology, while still only one officer conduct complaint being upheld. Now we have a complaint resolution rate of 82%, and now suddenly we have a police force that's really tackling complaints. Now, I might be wrong about this, and I genuinely hope I am, as we all know and can see the police not being held to account for their actions is creating a police force who literally think they can get away with anything because they genuinely can. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'd love to get involved in a discussion with you. Now we're moving on to something that will definitely demonetise this video, but nevertheless needs mentioning. Detective Constable Margaret Oliver. Some of you may have heard of her name and others may not. Margaret Oliver, known as Maggie, was a detective constable involved in a sensitive police operation in 2005 into a suspected grooming network of older Pakistani heritage men in the Rusholme area, who they believed were having sex with vulnerable children living in care homes. Now, I can't do this story the justice it deserves by way of a complete report, as this was such a huge investigation it's impossible for me on my own to get all of the information and deliver to you. So as always, there are links in the description should you want to read the full articles, but I'll simply try and break this down a bit here in this video. Maggie was working on the case of the South Manchester grooming gangs targeting vulnerable children in plain sight of police and social workers, who then failed to protect the kids from abuse and even death. A 15-year-old girl, Victoria Agoglia, was being forcibly injected with heroin, and even though her social workers knew about it, they failed to act, and Victoria died 2 months later. The investigation, or operation, named Augusta, was seemingly in full swing when Maggie had to take time off work on compassionate grounds. Little did she know that her hard work gaining the trust of those girls and in compiling an extensive initial dossier of evidence would be abandoned while she was on leave due to concerns over costs among senior command, despite evidence of clear and widespread abuse. Operation Augusta had already successfully identified 97 potential suspected paedophiles as well as 26 victims, but due to the abandonment of the operation, 8 of the potential suspects went on to rape or abuse other women and girls. But that's okay, because the police saved time and money. A sentiment shared by Maggie, who said, "The question that keeps coming back into my head is, what is the cost? What about all the children who have been left sacrificed to save money and to protect the organisation?" Greater Manchester Police had always refused to reopen Augusta, despite pleas from both Maggie and the family of Victoria Agoglia, the 15-year-old girl who died from heroin after years of abuse. Margaret Oliver retired from the force in 2011 when she quit over the disgusting way GMP handled the Rochdale grooming gang trials, but never gave up pursuing the case she was instrumental in getting finished. I think although so many people suffered from GMP's obvious lack of concern for the young girl's safety, without Maggie fighting forward even after her retirement, this may still well not be concluded, and so this is one police officer, ex-police officer, that gets my respect for helping the countless victims get some kind of recognition for what they've been through and belief in their claims all those years ago, without falling into the normal trap police fall into, which is, we are a family, we must do what we must to protect one another. Police officers arrested a man for unlawful force in Parliament Square last year, which is currently a case going through court. 51-year-old James Farrar, a trade union leader, was demonstrating in London last year while leading a demonstration against a decision to levy the congestion charge. The alleged assault occurred when police tried to clear the protesting Uber drivers, and Farrar spoke through his loudhailer near the heads of Sergeant James Lewis and PC and Sphinx. The prosecution is arguing that amid pushing and shoving, Farrar, a former Uber driver himself, had used the megaphone close to the left ear of both officers in a manner that was reckless and caused them injury. It was described how Sergeant Lewis had a pre-existing infection which was temporarily made worse by the sharp pain of the megaphone. In other words, he had an earache, which there is no way of proving. The prosecutor went on to say, as he used the loudhailer, he caused PC Lewis significant pain to his ear. The police then pushed the defendant in with the other demonstrators. A short time later, he does the same thing very close to PC and Sphinx in a police liaison outfit. He was acting recklessly, unlawfully, as he was shouting through the loudhailer where the officers were. Farrar from Hampshire, although arrested for unlawful force, is being charged with, get this, assault by beating from the sound waves. Can you imagine calling the police with this one? Hello, 999, which service do you require? Please, it's an emergency. Hello, police. Hi, I've just had the shit kicked out of me. I need your help urgently. Where are you, sir? Do you need an ambulance? Yeah, I'm in Parliament Square, and yeah, I think I need an ambulance to be on the safe side. And you'd better send the armed response. He has a weapon and is assaulting me with it. Okay, sir. Stay calm. Can you tell me what kind of weapon it is? Yes, it's a bloody megaphone. Help. Okay, sir. We'll have all available units in the area on their way to your location. I mean, it's fucking amazing the shit the police will try to do someone for. But you know full well, if the police shouted in someone's ear, they certainly wouldn't be able to get it even anywhere near a courtroom. And this is just another example of how the police waste the taxpayers' money in order to prosecute the taxpayer, when we as taxpayers in most cases have to abandon claims against the police in court due to the costs. Sickening. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Please like, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, and remember to film the police. Good night, all. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video, there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.